So I guess first thing, so as Ken said, I'm Doug Shelley. I'm the VP of Development at Tesora. So I just have a couple of slides that I wanted to introduce some newer features with in Tesora DBaaS platform, specifically around MySQL. And then I have a short demo to show off those features I wanted to take you through. But before I do that, have you all heard of the book? I don't know if that's been mentioned yet, the book, OpenStack Trove. So, okay. This thing. So, Tesora DBaaS platform, just a quick intro for those of you who don't know what it is. So it's completely based on Community Trove, which we all know and love. We provide a few extra things. We provide certified guest images for pretty much all the databases that are supported and some extras. And I think this is one of the things that's important. In the last, I think it was the last discussion, the Meet the Experts panel, there was a significant amount of discussion in that panel around guest images and what it takes to make one and how do you make sure it works and all those things. We definitely identified that as an area where we could add value, and so we're building these production quality images that we test all the time. We test them across all platforms, distributions, to make sure that they're going to work, and all the databases. We're starting to add some more enterprise features, such as we've definitely identified Oracle support as an area where it is important for enterprise customers. So we've started building out Oracle 11G and 12C support, and we've done a bunch of work around making the platform easier to configure, to install and configure. So really this presentation, I wanted to focus on what's new. And I want to focus on MySQL support. So since the last Trove Day, for anybody who was there, that was about a year ago, some things that I wanted to highlight. We've really took a look at replication within the context of MySQL. And we did basically this in two phases. The first phase we called Replication V1 was basically, we called it bin log based. So it's doing asynchronous replication based on the kind of stock bin log that's in MySQL 5.5. And at the time, it also supported MySQL 5.6. So basically, you'd create a slave from a master. You could create multiple slaves one at a time, and you could detach the slave. And we looked at that and decided to evolve that feature. And we came up with Replication V2. Which we decided to use the global transaction ID mechanism that's in MySQL 5.6. So, which basically provides for some of these other features I'll talk about in a second. But we basically also provided the ability to start multiple slaves simultaneously. So in one command, you can have n replicas come up. We also recognized the need to be able to start a slave from an incremental backup, because if every time a slave starts, it has to do a full backup, that can be annoying. So if there's a full backup available, it'll automatically provision the slaves off of an incremental. And the biggest thing I'd say we started to add here, and Amrit touched on some of this morning, about failover. We added, at this point, manual failover, and this was the ability to do this was really based on the fact that we introduced the use of the GTID mechanism. So now what basically we can do is promote and eject, and I'll talk more about those in a second. And all this stuff went upstream in Juno and Kilo, I believe. And then other thing that's been recently added that we're being worked on is something I think that's been talked about for a long time in the community and with customers, is the ability to pull various logs off of the guests. I would say the major focus is the database-specific error logs, or a database-specific query log or slow query log. So we built out a mechanism that's generic, but the initial implementation is focused on MySQL. And so for MySQL, it exposes the error, general, slow query, and we also expose the actual Trove guest agent log optionally. The publishing of the logs can be enabled or disabled, and there's Horizon for this, a Horizon interface for this, which I'm going to show you. But there's also CLI and REST API, and so the publish is log publish. And then individual logs, you can stream them back to your command line using logtail, and that's also available at Horizon. And you can actually download the entire log with log save. So I wanted to take a look here. Let's see if this works. Oh, that's next slide. Okay, so we can flip to the demo. So before my friends at HP laugh at me, my demo is video that I'm going to walk you through. And I do that because, as my VP of Marketing said, ridicule is better than epic fail. So, or actually, he's not my VP of Marketing. He's my favorite marketing dude. OK, so this is Horizon dashboard. It's our themed Horizon. So this is the Tesora DBaaS platform. So here we're just going to sign into that. And then what I'm going to show you is, first is we're going to take a look at the data store panel, which just lists the different data stores that are available. And as you heard earlier today, so these all link basically to guest images. So as I loaded up a few here just so you could see more than what I'm going to demo, but you can see we have the Oracle, Cassandra, Postgres. And I'm going to focus on an image we just recently created, with help from our friends at MySQL Enterprise group from Oracle. So you see this MySQL-EE guest. So I'm going to click on that here, and you can see the, I'm going to click on it eventually. There we go. This is just to drill down into it. You can see the name, and it points to where the data store. This is version 5.6 of MySQL Enterprise. And there's the data store version panel showing that. And you can see, I didn't click on it, but you can see there's a link on the far right side to the image ID. That's actually an image in glance. OK, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to bring up an instance that's going to become my master. So I hit the launch instance dialog, fill it in here, my master. I'm going to pick this medium-sized flavor, go for a 3 gig volume, and I'm going to pick MySQL Enterprise 5.6 as my guest. So then I'm also going to, on the create, I'm going to create a database called employees because I'm actually going to load the MySQL employee sample into it so we have some data. I'm going to create a user for myself. So these will all be created on the MySQL database when it's provisioned. And now we're going to launch. So here we go. It's building, as you can see. Build, build, build. There we go. It's active. See how fast that was? OK, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to use this master image to show you our log retrieval feature. So we're drilling into the instance details first. You can see down here, I'm going to cut and paste the locator info so I can connect to the MySQL instance via the CLI and show you some things. So I'm just going to copy that out. That has the connect information for MySQL. And you can see here the user got created, the database employees is there. Now we're going to go over to the logs. So as I mentioned in my overview slide, this logs panel is new in Tesora DBaaS. It'll be in version 1.6, I believe. And then will be, I think the feature will end up being upstreamed in Replica. So these are the 4 logs we exposed for MySQL. You can see there the error, slow query, guest, general log. You can see that this can publish flag indicates whether it's a publishable log. So right now, for the demo, I set them all to yes so we can get through this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you the general log, I believe. I'm going to click on this view log button here. And as you can see, this, for anybody familiar with MySQL, that happens to look like a MySQL general log. So not much has happened yet. So I'm going to come back to this in a minute after I do some more work. So there's some other options, view full log, download. We're going to go back to the list. And I'm going to pop this is a Trove guest agent log. So one of the things in the feature is that the operator can choose which of these logs to expose to the end user. In the case of this demo, I've exposed them all. But there's certain reasons you can imagine that the guest agent log would be a particular log that you wouldn't want to expose to the end users of the system. And that's available. I just have it exposed here. So this is a Trove guest agent log. For any Trove people out there, they'd recognize that for sure. So we're going back to the list. And I'm going to pop the error log. So this is a MySQL error log. And as you can see, I'm going to show this twice just so people don't think I made this up. Notice the name of the database in the bottom there. It says 5.6.26 Enterprise Commercial Advanced. When I read that, I was trying to figure out how many more words Oracle could put in the name of the database to indicate that it's Enterprise Edition. So I'm using, in fact, the MySQL Enterprise Edition 5.6. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some, I'm going to load the database. So we go to a command line. I'm going to connect as my user ID, Doug. And here we are, and you can see again, it comes up, it's MySQL Enterprise. I'm going to show you that this database employees is on the instance. There it is. And then we're going to go out here and we're going to load the, this employees sample. People who've used MySQL know this. It loads quite a lot of data, I'd say, for a sample database, but it'll help instruct the replication feature here. So I'm just going to load that. Shouldn't take that long here. This Mac is really fast. Either that or I'm really good at video editing. Okay, so I just want to go in and show you in the database some data is loaded, and specifically how many rows are in the employees table. So I'm going to select count star employees. So this is all loaded into my master database that I created previously. So there it is, 300,024 rows. Now we're going to flip back to our dashboard, and we're going to go back out to the instances panel and launch some replicas. Oh, actually, sorry. No, we're not. First, we're going to show you the general log through the log retrieval feature. So you can see that mess above, that's the bulk insert from the employee sample. And then you can see at the bottom here the commands that I typed into the master to select the count star from employees. So it's indeed collecting data as we go here. Okay. Now we're going to launch the masters after I get back to the top of the screen here. So there's all the bulk load of that database. Okay, come on. Oh, let's stop collection on the general log first. Okay, see it stopped. Okay, here we go. We're going to launch. So this time, we're going to launch 2 slaves off that master. So I'm going to give them a base name of my replica. They're going to come up as my replica 1 and my replica 2. We're going to use MySQL 5.6 Enterprise. So we're going to pick under the Advanced tab the source as replicate from instance, and we're going to pick the master instance as the source, and we're going to do 2 slaves. So this is going to basically take a backup of the master, shoot it to both the 2 slaves it provisions, and then provision GTID-based replication on there. So right now you can see it's doing the backup of the master, then the master goes back to active, then it loads that onto the slaves and they go active. So now we have a 3-node effectively replication set in MySQL here. So I'm just going to go through the instances and show you how they're provisioned. So this is the first replica, and what basically in the dashboard, what gets added to the detail output, if you look right at the very bottom, it says is a replica of. So this is a replica of that instance, which will, and then I'm going to copy paste out the replica locator info so we can go check the database out. Okay. Now we're going to go look at the second replica quickly here, I believe. Nope, we're going to check the first replica for data. So that entire employee's database should have been backed up or stored on here and is replicating now, so we're going to just check that out. So I'm going to see how many rows are in our employees table. Select count star from employees, and anybody know what the answer is going to be? 300,024, stunning, there we go. So our replica has been correctly provisioned with that base data set from the master. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you is one of the failover mechanisms. So in the case where you want to basically manually generate a failure and the master is still reachable, you can use the promote to replica source function, which is right here. So what it's going to do basically is it's going to take the replica you picked, and it's going to make it the master and convert the master to a slave. So they go into this promote state, the whole set, for a minute so it can get everything consistent. And once they're active, we can take a look and see that indeed my replica 2 was the one I selected. It's now going to be the master, and you can see that because instead of it saying is replica of there at the bottom, it says replicas, and it has 2 of them. And we can see now that our master is actually a replica of, so it's been demoted to a slave. And my replica 1 now will have switched from master being the original master to my replica 2. And I click on that link and you'll see that my replica 2 actually comes up. Okay, so that's promote. And then the next thing I wanted to show you was just some of the other features here, the commands you can do. So you see for a replica, you can do detach replicas. That basically just actually knocks it out of the leaves the database alone, but takes it out of the replication network, so it's no longer replicating. For the master, there's the detach. For the master, you can do eject. So the purpose of eject is when the master isn't actually reachable and you want to kick him out and have it automatically promote one of the slaves to be master. And the way it does this, it's configurable, but I think at this point by default, it uses the slave that it thinks is most current, which makes sense in most cases, I suspect. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to eject my replica 2. There we go. It generated an error. The reason there's an error is because my replica 2 is still reachable. It's tagged as active. So you're not allowed, this is basically a seatbelt. You're not allowed to eject the master that is reachable. If you want to do that, you should use promote, because promote makes sure that you get consistent, all your databases are consistent. In the case of eject, it is possible that you could lose data if there's transactions on your master that haven't been replicated yet. So basically we're telling you here, you can't eject this guy because he's still reachable. And we determine reachability by the Trove guest heartbeat. So this guy has a current heartbeat, so he's not ejectable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically knock over the Trove guest agent as a way to simulate a failure. So I just basically SSH into it and kick the guest agent over. And you can see here, I just did that, and it says here the guest agent is inactive. And now that master will end up with a stale heartbeat, in which case we can eject it. So they all go into eject state, and it's working through figuring out which replica to promote. It'll promote it and detach the master, which in this case, the master was replica 2. So let's go see if we can figure out who the new master is. So first we'll check my replica 2 and notice that you'll notice now that he has no replication info on the bottom because he's basically been detached. So he's not in the network, the replication network anymore. And we'll go check out my master, and maybe he got promoted back to being the master. Let's find out. And yes, he did, because he has one replica, which is the other guy. There we go. I think that's actually what I had for today. I guess, I don't know if there's any questions for me. I can take a couple, and then I'll turn it over to Matt. Does anybody have any? Oh, sorry, I can't see. Go ahead. Yes. Well, the promote won't take longer because they're already all in sync, generally speaking. So the lag could possibly be on the transaction rate. But in promote, but in terms of creating a new replication network, of course, if you have a very large volume that didn't have a previous full backup on it, and you make him a master, yeah, it's got to basically shoot the database backup over to all the slaves, which was partly why we did that's part of the reason for the incremental feature, but definitely at this point, if you have a significantly large master and you create a new slave, there is time in terms of getting the backup to him. Yeah. can't see with these things on. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Do you know if there are any Java client libraries to kind of do what you just demoed in a program?
Are you asking me if I know of any Java clients?
Yeah, are there any Java client libraries that you know of that could be used to build a demo like what you just did without going through the UI?
So you're asking me if you could demo this feature without using the UI?
Yeah, basically I'm interested in Trove, client libraries into Trove.
Well, the core client library to Trove is Python, but so all the things that I just demoed through Horizon are available through the REST API, which in turn then means they're available through the Python API and also through the Trove CLI. So you could completely script that for sure.
I see.
If you eject something, is there a way to reconnect it?
No, I don't think that's advisable.
Okay.
Because basically, at the point you ejected it, you possibly, maybe likely, depending on the transaction rate, lost data because it could have kept getting hits. It could have partitioned or something, right? So.
Okay. So then why is the ejected VM labeled as active, just like all the others?
Yeah. That is a very good question. That is an artifact that I think we need to sort out, which is the Trove instance. The active is being set because the heartbeat is current. There's no mechanism at the moment to actually detect that the heartbeat isn't current in terms of active monitoring. So when I shot that guest agent, he just stopped sending heartbeats. The infrastructure database, which is where the heartbeat is stored, there's no mechanism to go, oh, he's stale, change his state to not active. Which I think part of that goes to the monitoring discussion that Amherst started, we were talking about this morning, and I think the community is definitely very interested in. Okay? Did I mention the book? Oh, sorry. Okay, Matt, I'll turn it over to you.